After I slapped my husband's mistress, he broke my leg. He locked me in the basement and told me to reflect now. I called my dad, a gangster boss, and said, "Dad, don't let a single one of the family survive." Video fades in on a close-up of a determined yet haunted face, perhaps with subtle scars or a distant look in the eyes. Voice is low, intimate, then builds with intensity. Picture this. It's your third wedding anniversary, a day meant for celebration, for love. But for me, it ended with a broken leg, locked in a dark, cold basement after my husband, violently turned on me for slapping his mistress. My world had shattered, but that was just the beginning. What he didn't know was that I had one phone call left, to the only man who could turn my broken dreams into his worst nightmare. My father, the head of the Romano crime family. What would you have done in my place? It all started so innocently. I'd cut my New York Fashion Week trip short, wanting to surprise Ethan, wanting to celebrate us. Walking into our Greenwich mansion, the sharp click of my stilettos on the imported Italian marble was usually a comfort. That day, it sounded like a warning. And then I saw them. A woman's stockings, lingerie, carelessly strewn across the living room. A sickening trail leading right up to our master bedroom. My heart didn't just pound, it throbbed with dread. A cold sweat broke out on my palms. I tried to deny it, foolishly clinging to the idea that maybe, just maybe, our housekeeper was cleaning. That hope shattered the moment I heard their familiar moans. From our bedroom. And then Chloe's voice, sickeningly sweet. "Ethan, what if your wife comes back early?" Ethan grunted, his breathing heavy, full of an excitement I'd never heard from him. "Don't worry," he slurred. "She's in New York. She won't be back until tomorrow." And then, the true kicker, the words that sliced deeper than any knife. "And so, what if she does?" That broke designer. I'm the one who pays for everything anyway. I stood there, outside my own bedroom door, my entire body trembling. Chloe Vance, my best friend from college, in my bed, with my husband. 3 years. 3 years I'd poured my heart and soul into building our family, our life. And in his eyes, I was just a freeloader. A broken designer. That was it. The last thread of my sanity snapped. I kicked the door open. The sight. Oh God, the sight of their pale, tangled bodies is burned into my memory. Sophia. Ethan scrambled off her. Chloe screamed, pulling the sheets over herself, but I saw it. That provocative, sickening smirk. "Sophia, listen to me. This is all a misunderstanding," Ethan stammered. "Misunderstanding?" My blood ran cold. "Shut up." I swung my hand, hard. All my strength, all my fury, went into that slap. Chloe's head snapped to the side. Her perfectly sculpted nose, crooked. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. "Sophia, are you crazy?" Ethan roared. He leaped from the bed and punched me. Hard. Right in the stomach. The pain buckled my knees. But I fought it. I forced my head up, glaring at him through my tears. "Ethan, how could you do this to me?" His response? Cold. Vicious. "How could I? You deserved this." He grabbed my hair, dragging me towards the grand staircase. "Who the hell do you think you are? Marrying into my family was the greatest honor of your life. You pathetic designer. How dare you hit Chloe? Her father is the CEO of Vance Industries." Even through the searing pain, the feeling of my scalp tearing, a laugh escaped my lips. A bitter, broken laugh. "So that's it? You cheated because her family has more money than mine? Have you forgotten who stood by you when you started your company from scratch? Shut your mouth." He shoved me. A fit of pure rage. I lost my balance. Tumbled. Down the stairs. My right leg slammed into a decorative corner post. I heard it. A horrifying crack echoed through the mansion. Followed by an agony so intense, my vision went black. "Stop the drama and get up," Ethan sneered, walking down the stairs. And then he kicked my injured leg. I screamed, my back instantly drenched in cold sweat. "Ethan, I think her leg is broken," Chloe whimpered, wrapped in a bedsheet, her face pale, staring at my twisted limb. "What a nuisance," he muttered. "A nuisance?" He grabbed my arms and dragged me to the basement. "Let her cool off down there. Maybe she'll learn her place." I nearly passed out, but I bit my lip hard. I wouldn't give him another sound. He threw me into that damp, dark basement. The last thing I heard was him telling the housekeeper, "Don't give her anything to eat. Let her reflect on what she did for the next 24 hours. Then, the heavy steel door slammed shut. Darkness consumed everything. I huddled in a corner. My right leg was already swollen beyond recognition. The pain made me lose all sense of time. How long had it been? I felt for my phone. Miraculously, it wasn't broken. And there, at the very bottom of my contacts list, a number I hadn't touched in 20 years. Saved under one word: Dad. I pressed call. 3 rings. Then a low, authoritative voice. "Yeah, Dad." My voice was a raw, broken whisper. "It's me, Sophia." Silence. A few agonizing seconds. Then, I heard it, the sound of a chair crashing to the floor, followed by an urgent, powerful voice. "Sophia, where are you? What happened?" "My husband, he broke my leg, he locked me in the basement." Each word was like swallowing glass. "Dad, help me. Send me your address. I'll be there in 10 minutes. The line went dead, but not before I heard him yelling to get the car ready. With trembling hands, I set my location. And then I started to laugh. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Ethan, that fool. He thought I was just some ordinary designer. He had no idea who my father was. My mother, on her deathbed, had told me. My father was Vincenzo Romano, the Don of the Syndicate, a crime family that held sway not just over New York, but across the country. My mother, she hadn't wanted me to be part of that life. So she left him, raised me alone. I'd vowed to live without that influence, you know? Never even told my father I'd gotten married. And what did all that noble pride get me? A broken leg. A basement. Starvation. I smiled again, a cold, hard smile. Less than 10 minutes later, I heard it. Frantic footsteps. Sounds of a struggle from upstairs. Then the basement door kicked open. In a single, explosive blow, a burly man in a black suit rushed into the blinding light. "Miss Sophia," he said. "I'm Marco. The Don sent me to get you." He knelt, examined my leg. His face hardened. "These bastards." As he gently lifted me, I saw them. 2 of Ethan's security guards lying unconscious at the top of the stairs. Upstairs, Ethan and Chloe were on their knees, held down by several other men in black suits. Their faces? Masks of pure terror. "Sophia, who are these people? What are you doing?" Ethan screamed, struggling against his captors. Leaning weakly against Marco's shoulder, I gave him a blood-stained smile. "Let me introduce you. This is my father's right-hand man. And as for who my father is, Ethan, you'll find out soon enough." As Marco carried me towards the waiting limousine, I heard Chloe's hysterical shriek. "That's impossible." Sophia said her father died years ago. Inside the car, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair waited. My father. He looked older, grayer, but his hawk-like eyes were as sharp as ever. And now, they were fixed on my mangled leg. "Sophia," his voice trembled slightly. He reached for my leg, then stopped, his hand hanging in the air. "Marco, get us to St. Jude's Medical Center. Tell Dr. Evans to prep an operating room." I was gently placed on the plush leather seat. My father propped my leg up with a cushion. He pressed a button, raising the soundproof partition. His next question was short, his voice like Arctic ice. "Who did this?" "My husband, Ethan," I said, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "I caught him cheating with my friend Chloe Vance. This is what happened." My father's eyes were like the sea before a hurricane, calm on the surface, but concealing a destructive force. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number. "Get me everything on Ethan Hayes and Chloe Vance." "Yes, the daughter of Richard Vance." "Good."
Don't touch them yet.
Wait for my orders. He hung up, then turned to me. Why didn't you call me sooner? After your mother left, I never stopped looking for you. Mom didn't want me involved with the syndicate, I said weakly. I went to design school, got a job at a famous firm. I thought I could live a normal life. A muscle twitched in my father's jaw. And you ended up with a beast who breaks your legs. I couldn't say anything. The city skyline blurred past the window, just like the last 3 foolish years of my marriage. At St. Jude's, a team of doctors was waiting. Dr. Evans, one of the country's top orthopedic surgeons, personally pushed my gurney. My father held my hand the entire way to the operating room. His hand was rough, but warm, reassuring. The surgery was a success. I woke up in a hospital suite that looked like a 5-star hotel. My leg was in a cast, elevated. Outside, the glittering city lights stretched to the horizon. My father was there, sitting by my bed, reading a file. Under the lamplight, his profile looked exceptionally cold and hard. Dad, I called out softly. He immediately put the file down.
Came to my side.
How are you feeling? Dr. Evans said the surgery went perfectly, but you'll be off your feet for at least 2 months. Thank you. I hesitated, then asked, Ethan and the others? Marco took care of it, he said, a ruthless glint in his eyes. Your husband thought we were just some street thugs, screaming about pressing charges. I let out a laugh, then winced as the pain flared up. That fool, Ethan. He had no idea who he had crossed. The syndicate wasn't just a gang, you know? It was a shadow power. Moving pieces in politics, in business, across the country. Even high-ranking government officials trod carefully around my father. Sophia, I want to hear what you think, my father said softly, sitting beside me. The syndicate's way? Ethan Hayes would be at the bottom of the Hudson River by now. I closed my eyes. I remembered the day I first met Ethan. 3 years ago. A young entrepreneur, just starting out. He waited outside my office for a month, begging me to design his logo. He said my designs had soul. He said he'd never met a woman as special as me. What a liar. I'm going to make him feel a pain worse than death, I said, my voice cold as ice when I opened my eyes. The Hayes family, they may look like legitimate real estate developers, but they built their fortune on loan sharking and illegal demolitions. I'm going to make Ethan watch it all come crashing down right before his eyes. Until there is nothing left, just like he did to me. A satisfied smile touched my father's lips. He pulled a thick file from his jacket. Perfect timing. My people just found out the Hayes family is betting everything on a bid for the new East River development project. Their bid is full of inflated numbers. He flipped through the pages. And, what's more interesting? Your husband embezzled $3 million of company funds to launder at a casino in Atlantic City. He still hasn't filled that hole. I took the file. My heart started to race. This evidence? Alone, it was enough to send Ethan to prison. Enough to make Hayes' construction stock plummet. Dad, I need time, I said, taking a deep breath. I'm going to pretend to forgive him. I'll go back to that house and gather more evidence. It's too dangerous, my father frowned. Please, I insisted, taking his hand. I need to destroy him with my own hands. After a long silence, my father finally nodded. All right, but Marco will be by your side. 24/7. He pressed the call button. Marco entered. From this day on, my life belongs to Miss Sophia, Marco said, kneeling. He presented me with a specially made satellite phone. Miss Sophia, my direct line, and the Dawn's emergency numbers are saved in here. If you're in any danger, press this red button. We'll be there in under 3 minutes. I took the phone. Its heavy weight felt like the key to a new life. A few days later, a terrified-looking Ethan appeared at my hospital room door. His suit was wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. He clearly hadn't slept in days. Sophia? His voice trembled. He was holding a pathetic bouquet of carnations. I had no idea your father was Don Vincenzo Romano, he stammered. I composed my face. A look of weary forgiveness. It's my fault too, Ethan. I shouldn't have hit Chloe. He rushed to my bedside, as if I'd thrown him a lifeline. "Sophia, does this mean you forgive me?" I must have been out of my mind. It was all Chloe's fault. She seduced me. I swear it will never happen again. His clumsy acting made me want to throw up the soup I'd had for breakfast. But the play had to go on. "You've already gotten an earful from my father, haven't you? Let's just put this behind us," I said softly. "When I get out of here, we can start over." "Okay." Ethan nodded frantically, unable to hide his relief. He had no idea that as he held my hand with his phony sincerity, a hidden camera in the room was recording his every expression. On the day of my discharge, my father sent a motorcade of 10 black Mercedes to escort me back to the Hayes mansion. The spectacle was so over the top it made the local news. Ethan stood at the front door, his face pale, watching Marco himself push my wheelchair inside. "If even a single scratch appears on Miss Sophia," Marco whispered in Ethan's ear, just loud enough for me to hear, "the Don said he wants to watch you get eaten alive by wild dogs." Ethan's legs trembled. He looked like he was about to wet himself. Good. Returning to the place I once called home felt disgusting. The bed in our bedroom? Repulsive. Ethan had changed the sheets, but I could vividly picture him and Chloe writhing on it. "Sophia, you should rest. I have an urgent matter at the office," Ethan said, pouring me a glass of water before trying to make a quick exit. "Okay, come home early," I said with a smile, watching him leave. The moment he was gone, I poured the water into a potted plant. Marco stood guard outside my door while I opened my laptop. As Ethan's wife, I knew the passwords to all his devices. I logged into his cloud account and quickly found what I was looking for: hotel booking records for the last 6 months, bank transfer histories, and even a few videos that were hard to watch. "You animal," I muttered with a cold smile, saving the evidence. Just then, a new message popped up on his screen. It was from Chloe. "Ethan, thank God she believed you. I'll wait for you at our usual spot. I miss you like crazy, baby." I stared at the screen, then laughed out loud. Ethan. He couldn't even wait 3 days. Perfect. This would make my revenge all the more satisfying. I picked up the satellite phone and called my father. "Dad, I think it's time to start quietly buying up shares of Hayes Construction." "Yes, so no one notices." After hanging up, I looked out the window at the bright sunlight. I once believed love was everything. I had willingly hidden my own light to become Ethan's shadow. But that naive Sophia was shattered, just like her broken leg. From now on, I would make it perfectly clear to everyone what happens when you cross the daughter of the Romano family. "Miss Sophia, are you really going to do this?" Marco asked, standing at the door of my walk-in closet, a frown on his face. I adjusted an earring in front of the full-length mirror. The woman in the reflection wore a deep crimson dress, her red lips as vivid as blood. I'd traded the cast on my leg for an intricate metal brace, peeking out from beneath the slit of my dress. "Of course," I said, turning to him. "The Hayes family is throwing an anniversary party. As the lady of the house, I can't possibly miss it." Marco started to say something, then closed his mouth. In the 2 weeks since I'd returned home, I'd seemingly reconciled with Ethan. But behind the scenes, using my father's connections, I'd already acquired 3% of Hayes Construction stock and was in contact with 2 minority shareholders willing to sell. My phone vibrated. A message from my father. "Julian Croft has arrived in New York. He will attend the party tonight as a guest. He has what you need." The corner of my mouth lifted. Julian Croft, the son of my father's old friend, a financial prodigy from Wall Street. He was the man in charge of the syndicate's legitimate investments. With his help, my plan would truly take flight. "Miss Sophia, the car is ready." Marco handed me a silver USB drive. "The video you requested has been processed." I slipped the USB into my clutch. The cool metal glinted, just like the cold resolve in my heart. The party, celebrating both the founding of Hayes Construction and our anniversary, was held at the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan. The moment I entered, on Ethan's arm, hundreds of eyes turned to us. Curiosity, surprise, and mostly, the eager anticipation of a public spectacle. The scandal of a tycoon's wife exposing her husband's affair with her best friend had spread like wildfire through the city's elite. "Sophia, you look stunning tonight," Ethan whispered in my ear. His hot breath on my neck made my stomach churn. I suppressed my disgust. Gave him a radiant smile. "It's an important night. I can't have you losing face, can I?" Ethan breathed a sigh of relief. The gentle, understanding demeanor I'd shown for the past 2 weeks, even convincing my father to forgive him, had clearly convinced him I'd forgotten everything. The foolish man. My in-laws approached, their faces plastered with awkward smiles. After learning my true identity, their attitude had done a complete 180. "My dear, how is your leg?" My father-in-law, William Hayes, said, wringing his hands. "Ethan can be so thoughtless. We're so grateful for your understanding." I responded with a smile and scanned the room. I spotted her, Chloe Vance, by the champagne tower, wearing a white lace dress that made her look like a cheap wedding cake. She shot me a look full of resentment. "I need to go say hello to an old friend," I said, releasing Ethan's arm and making my way towards Chloe, leaning on my cane. Chloe's face went pale. She instinctively took a step back. "Chloe, it's been a while." My voice was just loud enough for few nearby to hear. "White suits you. You look just like the ghost you played in our college play." A few stifled laughs broke out. Chloe's face turned furious red. "Sophia, don't be so smug. Ethan is only with you because he's afraid of your father." I silenced her, placed my index finger on her lips. "Let's not spoil the mood on such an important night." I leaned in, whispered in her ear, for her alone to hear. "There's going to be a fun little show later. Make sure you keep your composure." Before she could react, I turned away gracefully and came face to face with Julian Croft. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit, his eyes sharp as a hawk's behind gold-rimmed glasses. "Miss Romano, I've heard a great deal about you," he said, lightly kissing the back of my hand. "The Don speaks very highly of his daughter." "Mr. Croft," I smiled. "I was hoping we could speak for a moment after the party." "It would be my honor." We parted with an unspoken agreement. As the party got into full swing, William Hayes took the stage, boasting about Hayes Construction's glorious achievements, conveniently omitting any mention of a $3 million hole in their finances. I sat at the head table, playing the part of the perfect wife, maintaining a graceful smile, occasionally straightening my husband's tie. "Finally, I want to thank my daughter-in-law, Sophia, for her understanding and grace," William suddenly announced. "Everyone makes mistakes when they're young. What's important is that the family remains strong. Now, let's all raise a glass to this lovely couple." Everyone raised their glasses. I lowered my head, hiding the contempt in my eyes, then looked up with a warm smile. Ethan, seemingly moved, took my hand. "Sophia, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." "You won't need a lifetime," I said softly. "You can start right now." Leaving him with a puzzled look, I took my cane and slowly walked up to the stage. Took the microphone from EMC. "Thank you all for attending our anniversary party despite your busy schedules." My voice was clear, steady. "As the wife in this family, I've prepared a special gift." I gestured towards the lighting booth. The ballroom lights dimmed. A massive screen descended from the ceiling. Ethan's face tensed, a sense of dread dawning on him. "No, Sophia, please don't." He tried to rush the stage. But Marco appeared. His hand clamped down on Ethan's shoulder like a vice, holding him in place. "Enjoy the show, darling," I said, pressing a button on the remote. The high-definition screen lit up. A crystal-clear video of Ethan and Chloe writhing on my marital bed, complete with graphic audio. A date stamp in the bottom right corner. Filmed while I was in the hospital, with my broken leg. They couldn't even wait 3 days. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Chloe screamed, ran for the exit, but was blocked by security. My father-in-law's face turned ashen. My mother-in-law fainted. On the spot. "But that's just the beginning," I announced, switching the screen. Bank statements. Casino surveillance footage. My husband embezzled $3 million of company money to gamble in Atlantic City, which caused the East River Development Project to stall, leaving hundreds of displaced residents on the streets. Finally, I played an audio recording of Ethan on the phone with the head of a demolition crew. I don't care if one or two of them die. The important thing is that the site is cleared by tomorrow. The ballroom fell dead silent. I walked, step by step, towards the ashen-faced Ethan. For 3 years of our marriage, I secured 7 major projects for you. My designs won awards. Raised Hayes Construction stock price by 30%. My voice was quiet,
but sharp.
like a razor. And what you gave me in return? Betrayal, violence, and humiliation. Ethan's legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees. Sophia, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. But I forgive you. I suddenly raised my voice, turning to the stunned guests. Because I am just that loving of a wife. The room buzzed with confusion. My father-in-law, as if granted a pardon, scrambled onto the stage. Snatched the microphone. It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. As you can see, my daughter-in-law has forgiven my son. Now, everyone, please enjoy the party. I descended from the stage gracefully, walking through a sea of complicated stairs towards Julian Croft. He handed me a glass of champagne, his eyes shining with admiration. A magnificent debut, almost. It's just the beginning, I said, taking a sip. Did you bring the files? Julian produced a folder. The complete shareholding structure of Hayes Construction and their real financial statements from the last 3 years. They're much more interesting than what's been made public. I opened the folder. My pupils contracted. The company's actual debt was more than 3 times the reported amount. A massive sum of money had vanished through shell corporations. This is more than enough for a short sale. More than enough, Julian smiled. I've already contacted 3 firms that specialize in short selling. They're just waiting for your signal. The party continued in a bizarre atmosphere. Ethan followed me around like a kicked dog, begging for forgiveness. I maintained a dignified smile, looking for all the world like a gracious wife embracing her wayward husband. My dear William Hayes pulled me aside, wiping sweat from his brow. The board of directors. Don't worry, father, I said, affectionately taking his arm. I've already told my father to halt his purchase of Hayes Construction stock. We're family after all. He let out a long sigh of relief. He had no idea. I already owned 5% of the company through an offshore corporation. With the 8% I was set to acquire from 2 minority shareholders, I was already the 4th largest shareholder. After the party, Julian drove me back to the Greenwich mansion. Marco sat in the passenger seat, ever vigilant. Hayes Construction stock will plummet next week. The combination of the scandal you exposed tonight and the pressure from our short sellers will send it into a nosedive for at least 3 consecutive trading days. Good, I said, watching the city lights flash by. When it hits rock bottom, we'll buy up everything. When the car stopped, Julian suddenly asked, Did you really forgive him? I smiled wryly, pointed to my right leg, still in its brace. Mr. Croft, do you believe in loving your enemy?
No, he said.
Neither do I. Inside the mansion, Ethan was on his knees in the living room, crying like a child. Looking down at him, I found the situation endlessly amusing. This was the man I once loved? This cowardly, despicable, spineless piece of trash? Sophia, I was wrong. I was so wrong, he sobbed, grabbing my leg, smearing tears and snot on my expensive dress. I stroked his hair gently, as if patting a dog. Ethan, let's start over. He looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. But, I continued, I need to see that you're sincere. I hear Chloe's father is also bidding on that new North Shore development project. Ethan immediately understood. I'll cut all ties with the Vance family tomorrow. I promise. Good boy, I said, patting his cheek a couple of times. Now go to bed. You have work tomorrow. After Ethan scurried upstairs, I went into his study, locked the door, called my father. Dad, it's time to start the next phase. Yes, I need the evidence on the Vance family smuggling operation. After the call, I turned on my computer, rewatched the video from the party, pausing on the frame where Ethan was kneeling, begging for forgiveness. I casually hit the delete key. This is just the beginning. My dear husband, you're about to learn that losing everything is a far greater pain than any physical wound. 3 days after the party fiasco, I was in the dining room, elegantly eating blueberry pancakes. My leg brace replaced with a much lighter model. Ethan came downstairs, his tie askew, dark circles under his eyes. Coffee, I offered, pushing a steaming latte towards him. He eyed the cup with suspicion.
Refused.
No thanks. I have an urgent meeting. I shrugged. Took a sip myself. Ethan's recent behavior was amusing. In public, subservient. But when we were alone, he wouldn't even touch food I had handled. Marco's warning had clearly been effective. Oh, by the way, I called out as he was about to leave. There's a charity auction at the club in Soho tonight. I donated that Patek Philippe watch of yours. You don't mind, right? Ethan's face stiffened. But that watch was my grandfather's. I know. It's a limited edition, I said with a sweet smile, which means it will sell for a much higher price. It's already been announced to the press. Young heir of Hayes Construction donates family heirloom to help the less fortunate. It's great PR. He clenched and unclenched his fists, then forced a smile that was more like a grimace. Of course, I don't mind. As I watched him flee, I checked the security camera feed on my phone. The moment Ethan got into his car, he was frantically making a call. 10-1. He was complaining to Chloe. Though they had supposedly cut ties, they were clearly still in contact. My phone vibrated. A message from Julian. Short sellers are ready. Hayes Construction stock hit limit down at market open this morning. A satisfied smile spread across my face. The party video had been leaked online. The hashtag Hayes cover-up was trending nationwide. The board had requested a trading halt, but it was too late to stop the freefall. Marco appeared silently at the dining room door. Miss Sophia, the car is ready. I have a checkup at the hospital first. Then we're going to that private investigator my father recommended. In the hospital corridor, I ran into someone unexpected.
Chloe.
Wearing sunglasses and a mask, cautiously exiting the obstetrics and gynecology clinic. I quickly ducked around a corner. Discreetly took a photo of her receipt as she paid. A positive pregnancy test. Zooming in, I couldn't help but laugh. It seemed Ethan's groveling had borne fruit after all. A little devil was truly growing inside Chloe's belly. After my checkup, Marco drove me to a rundown office building. The elevator took us to the top floor. The doors opened to an office crammed with electronic equipment. A skinny man in a plaid shirt stared intently at 6 monitors. Miss Sophia, they call me Kay, he said without turning around. I've got everything the Don asked me to find right here. Kay played several surveillance videos. Ethan and Chloe enjoying a rendezvous at a motel just yesterday afternoon. And here's something more interesting. Kay switched screens. Chloe's father, Richard Vance, and Ethan's father, William Hayes, meeting secretly at an exclusive cigar lounge. They meet here regularly, on the 15th of every month, have been for at least 5 years. My eyes narrowed. Can you record their conversation? That's difficult, Kay said, scratching his head. That place has military-grade security. Use this. I took a fountain pen from my purse. A gift from my father. Next time they meet, bribe a waiter to plant this on Richard Vance. Kay took the pen, his eyes lighting up. A state-of-the-art listening device. I didn't know the Don had access to these. Leaving the PI's office, I called my father. Dad, Chloe's pregnant. No, don't touch her yet. That baby might be useful. Oh, and Richard Vance and William Hayes have been meeting regularly. Something's not right. A moment of silence. Sophia, the relationship between the Vances and the Hayes might be more complicated than you think. It goes back 20 years. 20 years ago? What happened 20 years ago? I pressed. But my father, for the first time, sounded hesitant. I'll find out for sure and let you know. Tonight at the auction, be careful around that Chloe girl. I hung up, lost in thought. My father was definitely hiding something, and my gut told me it had to do with my mother. That evening, I changed into a dress from Chanel's latest collection, asked my makeup artist for a fragile beauty look, elegant, but pitiful. Marco presented me with a jewelry box. From the dawn. Inside lay a diamond necklace with a rare black pearl at its center. I remembered seeing this necklace in a photograph of my mother. Miss Sophia, shall I accompany you inside? Marco asked. No, you wait in the car. I toyed with the black pearl at my throat. I can handle tonight's performance on my own. The charity auction at the exclusive social club was always a major event. The moment I entered, the noisy hall fell silent. Whispers erupted. That's the Hayes construction daughter-in-law. I heard her father runs the entire East Coast underworld. That Ethan Hayes must be blind, throwing her over for someone like Chloe Vance. I pretended not to hear. Walked to my reserved seat at the front. As soon as I sat down, a heavy perfume assaulted my nostrils. Sophia, long time no see.
Chloe.
She'd appeared beside me, wearing a white dress, intentionally emphasizing her slightly rounded belly. I heard you're still having trouble with your leg. Such a shame. I smiled, looked at her stomach. You must be about 3 months along. You should be careful in your first trimester. Chloe's face tightened. She clearly hadn't expected me to know. Ethan is so excited about this baby, she said, lowering her voice, a malicious glint in her eyes. He's going to divorce you as soon as the baby is born. Is that so? I took a tablet from my clutch, played a video. Then, what do you make of this conversation from yesterday afternoon? In the video, Ethan was frantically running his hands through his hair. Why now, of all times? My father is forbidding me from seeing you. The company's stock is crashing. And if that crazy wife of mine finds out I'm still talking to you, I'm finished. Chloe's face turned ashen. How did you? You didn't even bother to close the curtains in room 308 of that motel? I sighed. If you're going to cheat, at least cover the basics, my friend. The other guests couldn't hear our conversation, but Chloe's near-fainting state was drawing plenty of attention. I stood up, deliberately raised my voice. Chloe, you look so pale. Should I call a doctor? Especially with the baby on the way.
What?
Chloe Vance is pregnant. It must be Ethan Hayes' baby. How shameless can you be? The murmurs grew into a wave of gossip. Flustered, Chloe tripped on the hem of her dress, fell spectacularly, in front of everyone. As she scrambled to her feet, a dark red stain spread across her white dress.
Ah!
My baby, she shrieked hysterically. I watched the scene with cold eyes, then calmly dialed 911. Tonight's performance was turning out to be far more interesting than I'd planned. Not only had Chloe humiliated herself, but she'd announced her own pregnancy. The gossip columnists would have a field day. Before the ambulance arrived, I even made a point of calling Ethan for Chloe's sake. His first reaction upon hearing his mistress had miscarried was, surprisingly, damn it. Now my father's going to kill me. Hearing that, Chloe fainted. I never made it to the auction. When I returned to the mansion, Ethan was in his study, smashing things like a madman. The moment he saw me, he lunged, his eyes bloodshot. What did you do to her? Me? I blinked innocently. Everyone saw it. She tripped and fell all by herself. You, on the other hand, those words you said in the motel were very moving. Ethan froze, as if struck by lightning. You were spying on me. That's not important, I said, sitting down gracefully. What's important is that I decided to help you two get together. Let's get a divorce. I tossed the word out lightly. I'm sick and tired of this sham of a marriage. A flicker of relief crossed Ethan's eyes, quickly replaced by suspicion. What are your terms? For old time's sake, I'll only take what I'm owed. I spread out the papers I'd prepared. This house is mine, and I want 5% of your company's shares. That's insane. Ethan shot up. Do you have any idea this house is worth $10 million? And forget about the shares.
I sighed.
Pulled a stack of photos from a drawer. Then I guess these photos will be sent to every news outlet tomorrow morning. The photos showed Ethan not only with Chloe, but with at least 3 other women. More damningly, pictures of him gambling in Atlantic City, hobnobbing with local mobsters. Ethan's face turned a deathly gray. I'll give you 3 days. Think it over, I said, collecting the photos. Oh, and by the way, Chloe may have lost the baby, but I'm sure your father is relieved. He hates the Vance family, doesn't he? Ethan's head snapped up. How do you know my father hates the Vances? A lucky guess, I smiled. Why else would he forbid you from seeing Chloe? Ethan stared at me with suspicion, then stormed out. I immediately called Kay, the investigator. I need you to dig into the relationship between William Hayes and Richard Vance. Focus on 20 years ago. After hanging up, I checked my computer for the day's harvest. Chloe's medical records. Not only had she miscarried, but the trauma had damaged her uterus, making future pregnancies unlikely. An unexpected bonus. My phone vibrated. A recording from my father. Richard Vance's furious voice filled my ears. William, have you forgotten what happened 20 years ago? If I hadn't taken care of that body for you. The recording cut off abruptly. But it was enough. It sent a chill down my spine. William was my father-in-law. The word body made my blood run cold. A text from my father arrived a moment later. Sophia, come see me tomorrow. There are things I need to tell you. I stared at the phone screen, my heart pounding. What happened 20 years ago? Whose body was it? Could it be connected to my mother's sudden death? Outside, a flash of lightning split the night sky. My reflection in the window was pale and cold, my eyes burning with a fire of vengeance. Ethan, did you think a divorce would be the end of this?
No.
It's just the signal for the next act of my revenge to begin. My father's estate was nestled deep within a bamboo forest. A high wall.
Guards.
The entire drive with Marco, I couldn't stop thinking about that recording.
Took care of that body.
Thorns in my mind. We're here, Miss Sophia, Marco said softly. I took a deep breath. Opened the car door. My father was in the garden, practicing Tai Chi, each movement, deliberate, powerful, belying his age. Sophia. He stopped. Gestured for me to follow him inside. Is your leg better? I can walk without the cane now. I followed him into his study. The rich scent of cigars and old leather filled the air. The room was exactly as I remembered, right down to the celadone vase my mother cherished. My father retrieved a yellowed envelope from a safe, his expression heavy. 25 years ago, when your mother left me, she was already pregnant with you. I know, I nodded. But you don't know why she left. He pushed a faded photograph across the desk. Look at this man. A younger William Hayes. A stranger. In front of a construction site. Holding champagne glasses. A banner. Breaking ceremony for Hayes Construction. The stranger had his arm around William, smiling broadly. Who is this? I frowned. Christopher Vance. Richard Vance's younger brother. My father's voice was ice. And the man who murdered your mother. My nails dug into my palms. What happened back then? William Hayes and the Vance family were running a redevelopment project together. Using illegal demolition tactics. Someone died in the process. Christopher Vance beat a protester to death. My father produced another document. Your mother happened to capture proof of it on film and was going to go to the police. The document contained blurry photos. Christopher Vance. A steel pipe. A bloodied protester. The date. 1 week before my mother's death. Christopher found out. Went after her. My father's voice trembled slightly. By the time I got there, it was too late. I stared at the photo. My vision blurred. The truth I'd been told, that my mother died in an accidental fall when I was 5, was a horrific lie. The police had closed the case so quickly because the Hayes and Vance families had pulled strings. What about Christopher Vance? My voice was a raw whisper. Dead. My father sneered. Died in a car accident 3 days after the funeral. I looked up sharply. The look in my father's eyes told me it was no accident. William Hayes and Richard Vance covered everything up, my father said, gathering the documents. I've been collecting evidence for years, but their roots in politics and business run too deep. Until you married Ethan Hayes. I finally understood. My father's silence. You were waiting for me to find out the truth. I didn't want you to be blinded by revenge, he sighed. But now you have your own reasons to seek it. I stood up, walked to the window. The bamboo forest swayed, sounding like the whispers of 1,000 ghosts. My gentle mother, who taught me to paint, met such a brutal end. Dad, they have to pay the price in blood, I said, turning back to him. My voice, strangely calm. Not just Ethan, but the entire Hayes and Vance families. A look of satisfaction crossed my father's eyes. Do you have a plan? First, we need to make them turn on each other. I opened my phone. A report Julian had just sent. The defective steel rebar used in the Hayes Construction East River project was supplied by a shell company controlled by Richard Vance. My father's eyes gleamed. You're trying to drive a wedge between them. The media is already prepped, I said, glancing at my watch. In an hour, the news about the East River project's potential collapse will be front-page financial news. My father poured me a glass of whiskey. As for Richard Vance, I've already tipped off customs about his smuggling containers. They're making their move tonight. Our glasses clinked. In that moment, I was truly my father's daughter. No longer the foolish woman who cried within the confines of her marriage. As I was leaving the estate, Marco handed me a file. Miss Sophia, Kay found these internal documents from Hayes Construction. I skimmed the confidential files. A smile played on my lips. Ethan's embezzlement was far worse than I'd thought. He hadn't just lost money gambling. He'd forged board meeting minutes to secretly mortgage the company's core assets. Marco, change of plans. Take me to the Hayes Construction headquarters, I said suddenly. It's time to pay my dear husband a visit. In the top-floor boardroom of the Hayes Construction building, an emergency board meeting was underway. Through a secretary loyal to my father, I was getting a live feed. The East River collapse is an accident. The media is exaggerating. The most urgent thing now is to stabilize the stock price. I could hear Ethan's frantic voice through my earpiece. Mr. Hayes, the problem isn't just the media. An older man's voice, Mr. Chen, a veteran board member. The safety inspection report just came in. All the materials failed. The supplier is an affiliate of Vance Industries. How do you explain that? I had no knowledge of this. Ethan stammered. That was the procurement department's. And your cousin runs the procurement department, doesn't he? Mr. Chen said coldly. The board is demanding a full audit, including the whereabouts of that $3 million you spent. I heard glass shattering, followed by Ethan's furious shout. I took out my earpiece, happily rode the elevator to the top floor. When I opened the boardroom door, every director turned to look at me. Ethan stood at the head of the table, his face ashen, his tie crooked. He looked like a defeated rooster. I apologize for the interruption, I said with a smile, walking towards an empty seat. It was a seat my father had secured for me through his shell company's shares. As a major shareholder, I'd like to hear how you plan to handle the East River project. Ethan's eyes widened, as if they would pop out. How did you, Mrs. Hayes? You may not be aware, Mr. Chen said, standing to greet me, but our initial investigation suggests this was caused by faulty materials and the supplier is closely linked to Vance Industries. Oh, what a coincidence, I said, feigning surprise. My father just received a tip that Customs is raiding a Vance Industries smuggling warehouse tonight. The boardroom descended into chaos. Directors whispered, some already pulling out their phones. Ethan's face was gray. He knew better than anyone about the dirty deals between his company and Vance Industries. Gentlemen, I raised my voice. I propose we form an independent investigation committee to thoroughly examine all transactions between our company and Vance Industries. Furthermore, given Mr. Hayes' recent instability, I move that his duties as COO be temporarily suspended. You crazy bitch. Ethan lunged at me, but was restrained by security. Calm down, darling, I said softly. This is for your own good. Just imagine if those loan documents from the Atlantic City Casino and the paper's mortgaging company assets were to be made public. Ethan froze, as if choked. He finally realized the cards I held were far more than just proof of his affair. The board passed my motions with an overwhelming majority. As I left the building, the sky was stained a blood red, like the impending fate of the city's power structure. My phone vibrated. A message from Julian. Short sale successful. Hayes Construction stock down 60%. Acquired 11% of outstanding shares. A moment later, a text from my father. Customs raid successful. Richard Vance in custody for questioning. I let out a long breath, got into the waiting car. Marco handed me a cup of hot tea. Back to the safe house, Miss Sophia. No, that place. I trailed off as a black SUV in the rearview mirror caught my eye. It had been following us since we left. Marco, we have a tail. Marco's eyes sharpened. He pressed his earpiece. Team 2, 2 o'clock. Black Range Rover, license plate, New York 8 Charles Thomas 2134. Run it. Less than a minute later, the reply came. Plate is a fake, but we got a facial scan from inside the vehicle. It's the head of security for Hayes Construction. Ethan's men, I murmured, my eyes narrowing. When a dog is cornered, it bites. Lose them and take me to the safe house. Marco wrenched the wheel. The car swerved into a narrow alley. The SUV followed. A silent chase through the evening traffic. Hold on, Miss Sophia, Marco said, pressing a red button. A thick cloud of smoke erupted from the back of our car. While their vision was obscured, Marco executed sharp turns. Drove into a parking garage. We switched to a prepositioned car. Smoothly exited. I could see the SUV still circling. Ethan is starting to suspect you. Marco's voice was grim. Should I have the Dawn send men to take care of him? No, I sneered. Let him. It's time to show Ethan that I'm not an easy target. The safe house was a discreet penthouse my father kept in Tribeca. First thing I did? Open my laptop. Check the news. Financial channels buzzed with the Hayes Construction scandal. Hashtag Hayes cover-up trended nationwide. Even more interesting, a rumor that Richard Vance had been taken into custody. Whispers suggested he was smuggling not just luxury goods, but drugs and weapons. Vance Industries' website was down. Their stock frozen. My phone rang. It was Ethan. I let it ring 10 times. Then answered. Sophia, this was you, wasn't it? His voice was broken. From the background, a bar. I don't know what you're talking about, darling, I said, putting him on speakerphone. Don't play dumb. The board meeting. The stock price. The Vances. This is all you're doing. What the hell do you want? He screamed hysterically. I want to know what it feels like to lose everything. My voice was light as a feather. Just like you made me feel. Silence. Then shattering glass. Followed by Ethan's roar. You just wait, you evil bitch. I'm going to make you suffer a fate worse than death. The line went dead. I shook my head. Called Julian. Keep buying up Hayes Construction stock. And start a rumor that Richard Vance is going to sell all his shares to pay the fines for his smuggling case. Already on it, Julian said with a laugh. And we've discovered a secret Swiss bank account belonging to William Hayes. A regular amount has been deposited every month for the last 5 years. The recipient is Chloe Vance. This unexpected information made me raise an eyebrow. My father-in-law was sending Chloe money every month?
Why?
Check the memo line on those transfers, I said. And prepare for the next phase. We're going to send William Hayes a very big birthday present. Hanging up, I walked to the window. The night was inky black, but in the distance, the lights of the Hayes Construction building still shone brightly. But by tomorrow's sunrise, the owner of that building might change. Ethan, did you think breaking my leg would be the end of it?
No.
I'm going to break the very backbone of your entire family. The night before William Hayes' 60th birthday party, I was in my dressing room, trying on a champagne-colored gown. It beautifully accentuated my waist. The scar on my right leg was now just a faint line. Marco knocked. Entered, holding a velvet jewelry box.
From the Dawn, he said.
He said it would go well with your dress tomorrow. Inside was a diamond necklace. At its center, a rare red diamond, glowing like a drop of blood. I recognized this gem. It was my mother's favorite. Where is my father? I touched the red diamond. Cold as ice. He is waiting for you in the study. Mr. Croft is also there. I threw on a robe, walked barefoot to the study. My father and Julian were discussing architectural blueprints. Julian, in a crisp suit, nodded as I entered. Ms. Romano, Sophia, come look at this. My father called me over. The blueprints were for the East River project. But instead of the luxury condos they advertised, the actual plan showed a densely packed complex of small apartments. The floor area ratio far exceeded regulations. Green space cut in half. So, William was deceiving the city, I said. Julian pointed to a seal. This is the final version, and construction has already begun. If this gets out, the entire project will be issued a demolition order. Hayes Construction stands to lose at least $2 billion.
My father handed me a USB drive.
Your birthday gift for tomorrow is ready. But there's something even more interesting. I plugged the USB into my computer. Bank statements. From William's Swiss account. Over $100,000 transferred to Chloe Vance every month.
Consistently.
For the past 3 years. The memo line always read discretion, but the most recent transfer was labeled medical bills. The date? The day after Chloe's miscarriage. My father-in-law knew Chloe was pregnant, I said, frowning. Julian opened another file. That's not all. According to Chloe's medical records, Ethan was on a business trip to Africa at the time of conception. The timeline doesn't match. My eyes widened. Then the child was... What's more interesting, Julian adjusted his glasses, is that William Hayes knew all of this and still helped Chloe hide the truth. My father sneered. The relationship between William and Chloe might not be as simple as a father-in-law and his daughter's friend. The information made my stomach turn. The Hayes family was even filthier than I had imagined. The press will all be at the party tomorrow, I said, closing my laptop. It's time to give the Hayes family a gift they'll never forget. The next day, the Hayes mansion was lavishly decorated. Luxury cars. I entered on Ethan's arm, playing the part of a loving wife. Since his suspension, Ethan had become noticeably subdued, like a dog with its tail between its legs. He couldn't even look me in the eye. My dear, you're here, William greeted me with a broad smile. His eyes lingered on the red diamond necklace. His face subtly tensed. It was my mother's, I said with a sweet smile. I'm so glad you remember it, Father. William forced a composed expression. Led us to the head table. High-ranking city officials. Bank presidents. I noticed Chloe. In a corner. Plain white dress. Stomach flat, face pale. When she felt my gaze, she lowered her head. The party reached its peak. The MC announced the toasts. William took the stage, boasting, never mentioning the scandals. Applause. And finally, I thank my daughter-in-law, Sophia, for her understanding and grace. William raised his glass. Another round of applause. I gracefully stood up, walked toward the stage. Under the table, Ethan desperately tugged at my dress, but I easily sidestepped him. You're too kind, Father, I said, taking the microphone. As the daughter-in-law of this family, I've prepared a special birthday present for you. I gave Julian a nod. He operated his laptop. The large screen descended. William's face tightened. A sense of foreboding. First, let's take a look at the actual blueprints for the East River project. I pressed the remote. A murmur went through the crowd. The real plans. A world away from the advertisements. Several city officials paled. Mr. Hayes, what is the meaning of this? Shouted the director of city planning. It's a misunderstanding. All a misunderstanding. William rushed the stage. But I quickly moved to the next slide. Next, we have the transaction history of Mr. William Hayes's Swiss bank account. For the past 3 years, you've transferred over $100,000 a month to Miss Chloe Vance. The ballroom fell dead silent. Clear bank records appeared. Chloe screamed, ran for the exit, but was stopped by security. And finally, my voice suddenly turned sharp. Miss Chloe Vance's pregnancy diagnosis. If you calculate the date of conception, my husband was on a business trip in Africa. That's a lie. Ethan shot up from his seat. I also have the DNA test results right here, I said calmly, displaying the final slide. Darling, the results say the child was my child. The ballroom exploded, as if a bomb had gone off. Ethan, like an enraged lion, tried to rush the stage, but was restrained by Marco. William, his face ashen, dropped his champagne glass. But there's something even more interesting, I said, playing an audio file. In the recording, William was telling Chloe, "You have the baby. We'll make Ethan accept it as his own. The Hayes family needs this child to secure the Vance inheritance." Hearing this, Ethan turned, punched his father in the face. The situation devolved into complete chaos. Board members left. Bankers tore up loan agreements. Reporters snapped photos furiously. I descended from the stage gracefully, walking out of the ballroom through a sea of shocked and awestruck stares. Behind me, I could hear Ethan's roars, William's sobs. Chloe had collapsed on the floor. No one paid her any mind. As I got into the waiting car, I let out a long breath. "Where to, Miss Sophia?" Marco asked. "To the hospital. I want to see something for myself." I looked at my phone. The post-miscarriage medical report for Chloe had just arrived. We were halfway there when Marco suddenly swerved. "We're being followed." A loud crash. Our car slammed into the guardrail. I was thrown forward, hit my head. Stars exploded. Through the rearview, I saw a black unmarked SUV hurtling towards us. "Get down," Marco yelled, pushing my head down. The SUV crashed into us again. This time, the passenger door. In that instant, 2 motorcycles roared onto the scene, their riders firing at the SUV's tires. The SUV lost control, flipped several times, crashed into the guardrail. "They're from the dawn," Marco said, quickly reversing, speeding away. "Are you all right?" I touched the growing lump on my forehead, gave a cold smile. Ethan must be truly desperate. Back at the safe house, I called my father. "Dad, Ethan sent people after me." "No, I'm fine. I handled it." After the call, I checked the security footage from the Hayes mansion. As expected, Ethan and Chloe were having a violent argument. "This is all your fault. Now that bitch knows everything. We're finished," Ethan screamed. Chloe sneered back. "Your father didn't seem to think so when he was sleeping with me. All you Hayes men are the same." "Shut up." Ethan lunged, began to choke her. "I could kill you." Chloe struggled, grabbed a fruit knife, slashed Ethan across the face. He screamed, "Let go." She fled. I turned off the feed, lost in thought. This dogfight was more entertaining than I'd anticipated. Just then, Julian called. "Sophia, the emergency board meeting is over. Ethan has been officially fired. William Hayes was admitted to the hospital with a heart attack. And the stock hit limit down again," Julian said, a light laugh in his voice. "We now hold 18% of the shares. With the support of a few minority shareholders, it's enough to initiate a hostile takeover." "It's not enough," I said, walking to the window. The night was pitch black. "I need to see Hayes Construction completely destroyed." I hung up, opened my safe, took out a long sealed document, a copy of my mother's diary. Inside, she had detailed the entire process of discovering the crimes of the Hayes and Vance families. The final entry dated the day before her fatal fall. "Mom, it's almost over," I whispered. "None of them will get away." The next morning, Marco banged on my door. "Miss Sophia, there's a problem. Ethan and Chloe have disappeared. The mansion is in chaos." I shot out of bed. Around 3 a.m., the security guard was knocked out. CCTV footage wiped. Marco handed me a tablet, but a street camera caught them being forced into a silver van. In the grainy footage, Ethan and Chloe, dragged into the vehicle by men in black. It didn't look voluntary. Those aren't our men. I frowned. Run the plates. They're fake. Marco shook his head. But the van was heading towards the docks. I immediately called my father. But a stranger's voice answered. Miss Romano, if you want to see your father and your husband again, come to the warehouse at Pier 3 alone. Otherwise, Ethan's desperate screams echoed through the phone. The abandoned warehouse at Pier 3. The salty sea breeze carried a fishy stench. I stood in the darkness, my hand on the small pistol hidden in my sleeve. The cool metal was a small comfort. Marco and 6 of my men were positioned around the perimeter, ready to move. Recon complete. Miss Sophia. Marco's voice came through my earpiece. 2 guards at the front door, 2 at the back. Total of 4 outside. Don't recognize their faces. Not local.
Dawn.
Thermal imaging shows 4 heat signatures inside. 2 standing. 2 seated. One of the seated figures matches the Dawn's build. I took a deep breath. Proceed as planned. 5 minutes later, dull thuds from the back of the warehouse. Bodies hitting the ground. My cue. I approached the front door. Deliberately stepped on a piece of broken glass. Who's there? A tense voice. It's Sophia Romano. You told me to come alone. The steel door creaked open. The muzzle of a gun pressed to my forehead. The man holding it was a brute with a nasty scar. Pat her down, he ordered. I calmly raised my hands. Allowed another man to search me. They took my phone and wallet, but missed the blade in my boot. And the pistol up my sleeve. Get in. The scarred man shoved me inside. The warehouse was dark and damp, lit by a single bare bulb. A man in a black trench coat sat with his back to me. Armed guards. On the floor, Ethan and Chloe, huddled together, hands tied, mouths gagged. Bruised and bloody. My father was nowhere. Miss Romano, I've heard a lot about you, the man in the trench coat said, slowly turning. I didn't recognize him. Early 40s. Hooked nose. A long scar. Where is my father? I asked bluntly. The man grinned. Yellow teeth. Don Romano is perfectly safe. Relax. I brought you here to make a deal. What kind of deal? The territories left behind by the Hayes and Vance families, he said, expertly flipping a butterfly knife. You did a very thorough job cleaning house, Miss Romano. Our boss was very impressed. And who is your boss? That's not important. He stood, walked to Ethan, lightly traced his cheek with the tip of a knife. What's important is that we can work together. You get your revenge. We take over their businesses. What do you say? Ethan's eyes were wide with terror. He shook his head, muffled noises. Chloe had passed out. I sneered. You kidnapped my husband just to propose a partnership? We couldn't get a meeting with someone of your stature any other way, the man shrugged. Besides, consider this us doing you a favor after this idiot tried to run you off the road. I slowly walked towards the center of the warehouse, my heels clicking. Let me guess, you're with the Falcone family. I hear you've been losing a lot of business to my father lately. The man's face tightened. His knife faltered. You're well informed, Miss Romano. That's not all. I stopped 10 feet from him. I also know about the shipment you're bringing into this pier tonight. I believe an anonymous tip has already been made to customs. You bitch. The man lunged. With the knife. At that exact moment, the warehouse ceiling exploded. Dozens of smoke grenades. Acrid smoke filled the space. Gunshots. Shouts. Footsteps. A symphony of chaos. Get down, Miss Sophia. Marco's voice through my earpiece. I dropped to the floor. Pulled the pistol from my sleeve. Through the smoke, I saw the scarred man stumble. I shot him in the knee. He screamed. Collapsed. 5 minutes later, the smoke cleared. A dozen heavily armed men in tactical gear. Area secured. The man in the trench coat and his crew on the ground. Ethan and Chloe, like dead dogs. The Dawn will be here shortly, Marco said, brushing dust off my clothes. Are you all right? I'm fine. I walked to Ethan, ripped the gag from his mouth. Darling, your new friends don't seem very reliable. Sophia, please save me. They were going to kill me. Ethan begged, tears and snot running down his face. What a shame they failed. I stood, turned to Marco. Take these men to the police station. The charges are kidnapping and attempted murder. Attempted murder? Marco looked puzzled. I pointed to a security camera. I have them on tape confessing to everything, including admitting they planned my car accident yesterday. Hearing this, Ethan suddenly screamed, Sophia, you devil, this was all your setup. Marco kicked him silent. I shook my head, called my father. Dad, it's handled. The Falcons tried to make a move. Yes, customs has been notified. I'll wait for you. I hung up, walked outside. Morning sun, painting the harbor in gold. Sirens. A convoy of my father's cars, speeding towards me. 4 days later, a seismic shock hit the New York financial world. The Romano Group officially announced its acquisition of Hayes Construction. As the heir, I held a press conference, exposed the decades of corruption. That same day, police raided Vance Industries. Richard Vance arrested. Smuggling, bribery. My image, standing in front of the Hayes Construction building, fielding questions, was on every news channel. Chanel suit. Mother's red diamond necklace. An air of unshakable confidence. A stark contrast to the tragic victim locked in a basement with a broken leg just 6 months prior. Miss Romano, as the new CEO, will you be retaining the existing management? A reporter asked. I smiled. Of course not. Hayes Construction requires a complete overhaul, from its executives down to its corporate culture. There are rumors that your husband, Ethan Hayes, is being investigated for embezzlement and murder for hire. What are your thoughts? I trust the law will deliver a just verdict, I said, a solemn expression. Personally, I feel a deep sense of regret and sorrow over Mr. Hayes' actions. After the press conference, Julian was waiting in the boardroom. Sophia, here are the final acquisition papers. All they need is your signature. I glanced through the documents, looked up at him. Julian, why are you helping me? Is it just because of my father? Julian adjusted his glasses. At first it was. I owed the Don my life. He hesitated, a rare occurrence. But now, I've come to admire your courage and intelligence. I let out a small laugh. Sign the papers. Hayes Construction is in your hands now. I trust you'll turn it into a truly responsible company. Where are you going? Julian asked. To see an old friend, I said, checking my watch. Ethan was arrested this morning. I should probably go offer my condolences. The visitation room at the detention center was cold, sterile.
Ethan.
Orange jumpsuit. Unshaven. Bloodshot eyes. The moment he saw me, he lunged at the bulletproof glass, restrained by a guard. Sophia, you devil, he screamed, pounding on the glass. I calmly picked up the receiver. Ethan, your charges are embezzlement, fraud, and murder for hire. All told, you're looking at a minimum of 20 years. Oh, and by the way, Chloe has already turned state's witness. She submitted evidence proving you conspired with her father to murder those protesters. Ethan's face went white. Lies. That was all Richard Vance. That old bastard. Really? I took out a small recorder. Press play. Ethan's own voice, crisp and clear. Get a few guys to rough up the protest leaders. I don't care if they end up dead. It's a fake. That recording is doctored, he screamed hysterically. I don't think the judge will see it that way. And about the baby Chloe lost? The DNA results came back. It wasn't my child. Ethan stood there, stunned, as if struck by lightning. Then whose was it? Your father's, I said, delivering the final, cruel blow. Chloe confessed everything. Ethan collapsed into his chair, looking like his soul had left his body. And one last thing, I said. Hayes Construction is mine now. All the shares in your name and your father's have been liquidated to cover the embezzled funds and pay damages to the victims. The sun was blindingly bright when I left the detention center. Marco was waiting. Miss Sophia, the Don requests your presence at the estate. He says there is an important matter to discuss. All right. I got into the car. In just 6 months, I had gone from a victim of domestic abuse to the heir of a multi-billion-dollar organization. The thrill of revenge was slowly fading, replaced by a sense of emptiness. Are you watching, Mom? The people who hurt you have all paid the price. My phone vibrated. A message from Julian. News just in. Richard Vance died in prison from a heart attack. Autopsy found traces of a slow-acting poison in his system. I stared at the screen, slowly smiled. My father had planned for everything. Marco, tell my father I'll join him for dinner tonight. And contact the bank in Zurich. I need to arrange for my mother's necklace to be stored in their vault. Yes, Miss Sophia. Outside, the city's skyline glowed under the setting sun. My era was just beginning. 3 months later, Ethan was in prison. Hayes Construction was renamed Romano International. I stood in the top-floor office, a glass of whiskey in hand, looking out over the glittering panorama of New York City. I came here almost every night. It still didn't feel real. Miss Romano, here is today's financial report, Julian said, entering, placing a file on my desk. The relaunch of the East River project has exceeded all sales projections. Good work, Julian. I took a sip. He didn't leave. Instead, he walked over, stood beside me. You haven't attended a single meeting in a week. The board is concerned. What are they worried about? That I'll run off with the money. I scoffed. They're worried about you. Julian's voice was uncharacteristically gentle. Many people fall into a void after their revenge is complete. I finally turned to look at him. He wasn't wearing his glasses. Dark circles under his eyes. His tie was loose. A far cry from his usual polished image. You look like you're the one who needs a break. Care for a drink? He hesitated, nodded. We drank in silence. Why did you help me? I asked suddenly. Was it really just because of my father? Julian swirled the amber liquid in his glass. Initially, yes. I owed the Don my life. He looked up, his gaze intense. But now, it is because I respect the woman you have become, Sophia. My heart skipped a beat. I instinctively looked away. Don't joke like that. I'm not joking. Julian put down his glass, took a small box from his jacket pocket. This is something your mother entrusted to my father. It's time it was returned to its rightful owner. I opened the box. An exquisite pearl brooch. Clearly a matching piece to my mother's black pearl necklace. My father told me that 20 years ago, after that fire, your mother saved your father's life. This brooch was the only thing she left behind. Fire? What fire? The Don didn't tell you. 20 years ago, a chemical plant owned by Richard Vance exploded, devastating 3 nearby neighborhoods. The glass in my hands suddenly felt heavy. My mother had died right after that incident. I need to see my mother's diary. I put down my glass, grabbed my coat. Wait, Julian stopped me. I also found out the real reason William was sending Chloe money. The money wasn't for her. It was for Richard Vance. William was paying him hush money to cover up their shared role in your mother's murder 20 years ago. The USB he handed me felt cold. 20 years ago again. The darkest period of my life. I need to see my father tomorrow. I need to ask him everything. In the dusty attic of my father's estate, I found my mother's brown leather diary. May 3rd, 1998. I got the definitive proof on film. Christopher Vance beating a protester to death at the construction site. I have to go to the police tomorrow. May 4th. William Hayes came to see me, offered to buy the film for a high price. I refused. The look in his eyes as he left was terrifying. I think he's having me followed. I've made copies of the film and hidden them in this diary. The entry stopped. The last page torn out. I rummaged through the box. Found a piece of a torn photograph. My mother, William Hayes, Christopher Vance. In front of a sign, Vance Chemicals. On the back, a small inscription, Vance Chemicals Shareholders Meeting. February 197-. Ella Laner Dawson. My mother's surname was Davis. My father's was Romano. Who was Ella Laner? Could my mother have been a shareholder?
Just then Marco called.
Miss Sophia, the Don has been hospitalized. It's a heart attack. In the hospital corridor, the red light above the operating room doors stayed lit for 3 agonizing hours. What happened? I don't know. He was meeting with the heads of the Falcone family when he suddenly collapsed. One of the old capos told me, Miss Sophia, there is something the Don has hidden from you. That fire 20 years ago, it was meant for him. Christopher Vance was trying to eliminate a competitor and collect the insurance money. The operating room doors opened. The surgeon emerged. We've stabilized him, but he has 6 months at most. I went into the ICU. My father, surrounded by machines. Sophia, did you read the diary? Yes. Where's the film? She hid it in the study, under the 3rd floorboard. Sophia, the syndicate is yours now. No. Dad, don't think like that. Listen to me. He gripped my hand. Richard Vance is dead, but the Falcones won't stand down. You either fight a full-scale war or you dismantle the organization. The syndicate is a dirty business, Sophia. It's no place for a girl like you. Don't become like me. Back at the estate, I pried up the 3rd floorboard. Beneath it, a rusted metal box. Several rolls of film. And a letter. From my mother. To my dear Sophia. If you are reading this, it means I am no longer in this world. Don't be too sad. This was my choice. Revenge does not bring peace, my love. Only justice can. Forever loving you. Mom. I sank to the floor, sobbing. A message from Julian. I found it. Your mother's death wasn't a fall. She was strangled and then thrown from the roof. The next morning, I summoned the organization's capos to my office. You all know my father's condition. I want to hear your thoughts on the future of the family. One of the oldest, a man named Sal, spoke up. By the rules, you're the heir, Miss Sophia. But we are in a time of crisis with the Falcones watching our every move. We need a strong leader. You're saying I'm not strong enough? No disrespect, miss, but this business is different from the corporate world. I see. I pressed a button. Marco and a team of armed guards entered. Gentlemen, you have 3 choices. 1. Help me transition the syndicate into a legitimate security and investment firm. 2. Take a generous retirement package and walk away. 3. I pulled out a thick binder. Turn yourselves into the police. I have a detailed record of every one of your accomplishments right here. In the end, most of the old guard chose retirement. Sal, furious, stormed out, vowing to join the Falcones. Marco put a tail on Sal, arranged a meeting with the head of the Falcone family. That afternoon, Julian and I visited the completed East River project site. It had been transformed into a beautiful park, filled with children's laughter. This is what your mother would have wanted to see, Julian said. I realized in that moment that my mother left my father not because she didn't love him, but because she didn't want the next generation to live in a world of violence and hate. Sophia, Julian suddenly knelt, pulling a ring from his pocket. I know this is sudden, but I want to be with you. Formally. Give me some time, I said, my eyes welling up. I touched his cheek. After I settle things with my father and the family. I'll wait as long as it takes, he said, standing, pulling me into a gentle embrace. A few days later, my father underwent heart surgery. It was a success. That afternoon, I met the Falcone boss, Johnny, at a neutral hotel. The syndicate is dissolving. We are transitioning to a legitimate security firm. I will cede some of the old Vance territories to you. On one condition, you get out of all illegal businesses. After a tense negotiation, Johnny agreed. When I returned to the hospital, my father was awake. I showed him my mother's letter and the evidence.
He wept.
It's my fault she's dead.
No, Dad.
It's all over now. He pulled a document from under his pillow.
Sign this.
The family is yours now. It was his will, leaving all his assets to me. The last clause read, in the event of Sophia Romano's marriage to Julian Croft, 10% of all assets will be transferred to him. My father smiled for the first time in a long while. He's a good man. better than the son-in-law your mother picked out for me. A month later, Romano Security was officially launched. At the press conference, I announced that 10% of the profits from the East River project would be donated to community development. Miss Romano, there are rumors your father was the founder of the syndicate. Is that true? My father once walked a dark path, I replied. But he is spending the rest of his life atoning for his mistakes. Romano Security will offer a second chance to all those who, like him, wish to start anew. After the press conference, Julian took me to the new park. Sophia, there's something I've been wanting to ask you. He knelt, holding out an old diamond ring. This was my grandmother's. She told me to give it to the woman who could help me end our family's painful history. I thought of my mother's letter. Revenge does not bring peace. Only justice can. Yes, I whispered. But on one condition, I want to turn the top floor of the Romano International Building into a children's library named after my mother. Julian slipped the ring on my finger.
Kissed my hand.
Of course. At our wedding, my father walked me down the aisle. At the end, Julian waited, his eyes full of love. I had tied my mother's black pearl brooch to my bouquet. On our honeymoon, I whispered to Julian, I think I'm pregnant. If it's a girl, I want to name her Lily, after my mother. Julian held me tight. Thank you, Sophia, for breaking this endless cycle of hate. In the distance, the dawn of a new day was breaking. My mother's pearls shone under the starlight, like a final period at the end of a long sentence, and the beginning of a new one. And now, my friends, I've shared my story. It's been quite a journey, from a shattered wife to someone building a new legacy. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to fight for justice when everyone expected you to simply break? What would you have done when your world collapsed? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.